Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Nun Daled Amud Beis, 54b of Maseches Kiddushin, and we are starting 9 lines down on the page. Towards the end of the line, the Gemara says Amar Rav, or it's really Amar Rav Nachman, going on to the next line. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Ada bar Ahava. Rav Nachman said in the name of Rav Ada bar Ahava, Halacha k'Rabbi Meir b'Maiser. The halacha is like Rabbi Meir regarding the dispute that revolved around Maiser Sheni. There was a dispute in the Mishnah back on Beis Amud Beis, on 52b. If a man tries to betroth a woman using Maiser Sheni, the second tithe, just to remind ourselves, is taken from one's produce and it's to be consumed in Yerushalayim. And Rabbi Meir held that whether he does it intentionally or whether unintentionally, it is not going to be a good Kiddushin. Whether he realizes it's Maiser Sheni, he doesn't realize it doesn't matter, because Rabbi Meir holds that Maiser Sheni is Mammon Gavoa. It doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the the heavens, so to speak. It's holy, it's sanct, and it's not his. It's from his produce. He has to consume it in Yerushalayim. But it's not his, so therefore it's not a good Kiddushin. It doesn't matter if he did it knowingly, unknowingly. And Rabbi Yehuda held that if he did it b'shogeg, it didn't work. If he did it accidentally, it didn't work. But if he did it on purpose, then it does work. Rabbi Yehuda basically held that it's his own money, and it's not Mammon Gavoa, it's Mammon Hediot, it's his own property, the Maiser Sheni, and therefore it works for Kiddushin. If he doesn't realize it was Maiser Sheni, then it doesn't work because they regret having done it, they don't want to use Maiser Sheni. But as long as they know that it's Maiser Sheni, then it works because it's his. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara is saying that the halacha in that machlokus, in that dispute, is like Rabbi Meir, b'Maiser, since there is a Stam Mishnah like him. So we have an idea that if there's a Stam Mishnah, if there is a Mishnah that is of unidentified authorship, and nobody argues on it, then the halacha is like that Mishnah. So since we have a Stam Mishnah, a Mishnah that's of unidentified authorship, we'll see it's not exactly the case in a moment, but since so far we're saying we have such a Mishnah, so therefore the halacha is like Rabbi Meir, because there's a Mishnah that goes along with his opinion. There's a Stam Mishnah that goes along with his opinion. And then he continues and he says, this is still Rav Nachman quoting Rav Ada bar Ahava, the halacha ki Rabbi Yehuda behektish. But the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda with regards to hektish, because the Mishnah continuing had another dispute. What happens if a man betroths a woman using hektish money, using money that was dedicated to the Beis HaMikdash, to the temple? So there, Rabbi Meir held that if he did it intentionally, it works. If he did it unintentionally, it does not work. Rabbi Meir held that it could be me'ilah. Me'ilah is the misappropriation of hektish, and it renders the hektish chulin. It's mechalala. It deconsecrates it, and therefore it could be a good kiddushin. So Rabbi Meir, who holds that even if one does it deliberately benefits from hektish, it's mechalala. It deconsecrates it. So he says that if a man is mekadesh a woman b'mezid intentionally using hektish, then it works because it's deconsecrated. If he did it unintentionally, then it doesn't work again because they regret having done it. It would technically deconsecrate it, but they regret it. And Rabbi Yehuda said the opposite. Rabbi Yehuda said b'shogeg kiddush, b'mezid lo kiddush. Rabbi Yehuda said if they did it unintentionally, it works. If they did it intentionally, it doesn't work. That's because Rabbi Yehuda holds that there's only me'ilah if it's done b'shogeg. Only unintentional use of hektish will deconsecrate it. Intentional use will not. And therefore, if he does it intentionally, it's not going to work because it's not his. But if he does it unintentionally, it will work. So the Gemara is saying that with regards to that dispute, we rule like Rabbi Yehuda, and again, for the same reason, Hoil Ustam lantana kavase. Because we have a stam Mishnah going like him within that machlokas. With regards to that dispute, there's a Mishnah of unidentified authorship that goes along with his opinion, so we will rule like that opinion. So now the Gemara will ask, what are these Mishnayos that we're referring to? The Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Meir with regards to Meiser Sheni, and the Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda with regards to Hektish. So says the Gemara, Ki Rabbi Meir b'Meiser Mai. What is this Mishnah that's like Rabbi Meir with regards to Meiser? Again, Rabbi Meir holds that Meiser Sheni is Mamon Gavoa. It doesn't belong to the individual, it belongs to the heavens. It belongs to Hashem. So what is that? Maihi, what's that Mishnah? Ditna, because we have the following Mishnah. The Mishnah appears in a few places actually, which will come back up at the end of the Gemara. So it appears in Maseches Meiser Sheni, as well as in Maseches Peah, as well as in Maseches Edios. So the Mishnah says, Kerem Rivai. A person has a vineyard and it's in its 4th year of the grapes grow, of these vines growing. So we have a halacha that a fruit tree, including a vineyard, one is not allowed to benefit from the fruit for the first 3 years. The 4th year is called Neta Rivai or Kerem Rivai, and there, during the 4th year, the fruit take on a halacha similar to that of Meiser Sheni, in that they have to be brought to Yerushalayim. So any fruit tree, the first 3 years of its growth, you cannot benefit from the fruit. The 4th year, right, that's Arla. We've talked about that earlier in the Masechta. And the 4th year is Neta Rivai or Kerem Rivai, and the halacha is those fruit can be consumed. They're permitted, but only if one brings them to Yerushalayim. So the question then is, does Kerem Rivai, Neta Rivai, these 4th year fruits, which are similar to Meiser Sheni in that they have to be eaten in Yerushalayim, are they similar in other ways? Do they take on the halachos of Meiser Sheni? So that's discussed in the Mishnah. So the Beis Shammai says, Ein lo chomesh ve'ein lo bir. One does not have to pay an extra 5th when one redeems them, and ein lo bir, and one does not have to destroy them during the years of Shemitah, which one would have been required to destroy as Meiser Sheni. So there's 2 halachos that we're discussing that exist by Meiser Sheni, and we're asking, are they true by Kerem Rivai? The first is whether when it comes to Meiser Sheni, so if you don't want to schlep all your fruit to Yerushalayim, you can redeem them for money and bring the money to Yerushalayim and use it there. But the halacha is that when you redeem your fruit, you have to pay an extra 5th on top of their value. If you're opting for the redemption route, so you have to pay an extra 5th. That's with Meiser Sheni. Question is, what about with Neta Rivai? When you redeem your Neta Rivai and bring the money to Yerushalayim, your Kerem Rivai, your grapes, so do you have to pay the extra 5th? So Beis Shammai says no. The second halacha is the halacha of biur. So when it comes to Meiser Sheni, let's say one does not bring their Meiser Sheni to Yerushalayim. So then in the 3rd year, basically Meiser Sheni is practiced in the 1st year of Shemitah, the 2nd year, and the 4th and 5th years. So, but not in the 3rd year, not in the 6th year. So in that 3rd year, if you did not consume your Meiser Sheni, did not bring it to Yerushalayim, so I believe it's come Nisan or come Pesach time, you have to destroy it. So that's true in the 3rd year of the Shemitah cycle and the 6th year. So is that true for Neta Rivai also? Do you also have to destroy that in the 3rd year of the Shemitah cycle and the 6th year? That seems to be what's under consideration here. And Beis Shammai says no. These 2 halachos, the halacha that you have to pay the extra 5th by Meiser Sheni, and halacha that you have to destroy them if you don't consume them by the time the 3rd year comes around, Nisan time, and the 6th year, that halacha is not true by Neta Rivai, by fruits that are from a tree or a vine in its 4th year. Ubeis Hillel Amrim Yeshlo. But Beis Hillel says no, those halachos do apply. Those halachos of Meiser Sheni do apply, even to Kerem Rivai. Then the Gemara brings another, or the Mishnah really that it's quoting, brings another dispute between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai Amrim Yeshlo Peret v'Yeshlo Olalos. Beis Shammai says that the Netter Rivai vines have the halacha, the same halachos that apply to regular vines. Let's say, vines, a vineyard that's in its 5th, 6th, 7th, year. It's been around forever. So there are a couple of halachos that are unique to grapes, and one of them is peret, and one of them is olalos. So peret means if you drop individual grapes, so you have to leave them for the poor. We have a similar thing by other crops, but by grapes it's unique. It's peret. It's if you drop individual grapes, you have to leave them for the poor. And then there's olalos. Olalos means that the clusters that never fully developed, they also have to be left for the poor. So, so the question is, is that true even for a vineyard in its 4th year, vines that are in their 4th year, which you're required to bring to Yerushalayim, so do those also have the halacha of peret and olalos? So Beis Shammai says yes, they do. They do have those halachos. Ubeis Hillel omrim kulo lagos. Beis Hillel says no, it all can be pressed. You don't have to leave any of it for the poor. It can all be pressed, and then you bring it to Yerushalayim, the wine, or redeem it, but you don't have to leave any for the poor. What's the reason? My taima de Beis Hillel. What is the reason for Beis Hillel? So it says Gamri, because they learn Kodesh mi Meiser. They learn a Gzeira Shava from Meiser Sheni. That Beis Hillel is comparing Kerem Rivai and Netter Rivai to Meiser Sheni through and through. Ma Meiser Yesh Lo Chomesh. Sorry, that's actually just explained the what they learn it from. Gamri Kodesh. It's a Gzeira Shava. So it says the word Kodesh in the context of Kerem Rivai. It says Uvashana Ravis Yeh Kol Piryo Kodesh Hilulim LaHashem, that your fruit will be Kodesh, they'll be sanctified. And also with Meiser Sheni it says LaHashem Hu Kodesh LaHashem, it's Kodesh. So we learn to compare the two, that just like Ma Meiser Yesh Lo Chomesh V'Yesh Lo Biur, just like Meiser Sheni has a halacha that if you redeem it you have to pay an extra 5th on top of its value. V'Yesh Lo Biur, and there's a requirement to destroy it after, if it's not consumed by the time the 3rd year comes in the 6th year. So af Kerem Rivai Yesh Lo Chomesh V'Yesh Lo Biur. So too Kerem Rivai has the same halachos, that you have to pay an extra 5th when you redeem it, and you have to destroy it. Beis Shammai, however, lo gamri kodesh mi Meiser. They do not learn this Gzeira Shava to learn from Meiser, and therefore Beis Shammai says those are halachos that are unique to Meiser Sheni. They do not apply to Kerem Rivai. There's no halacha of paying an extra 5th, and there's no halacha of biur, of having to destroy it if it's not consumed in time. Now that explains the first half of the Mishnah. It doesn't really explain yet fully the second half of the Mishnah, which was that Beis Shammai says the laws of peret and olos apply. If one leaves individual grapes or has undeveloped clusters, they have to leave that for the poor. And Beis Hillel says they do not. We're talking specifically about the 4th year, Kerem Rivai. They do not have to. So now that we have to understand that. So right, Beis Hillel said kulo lagos, they all can be crushed. So the Gemara continues. It says Beis Hillel omrim k'meiser, and Beis Hillel says that it's like meiser, that we compare Kerem Rivai, the 4th year grapes, to Meiser Sheni. Kiman Svir Lahu. Who does he hold like with regards to Meiser Sheni? Does he hold like Rabbi Meir, who says Meiser Sheni is Mamon Gavoa? It doesn't belong to you; it belongs to Gavoa. It belongs to Hashem. Iker Rabbi Yehuda, or does he hold like Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that no, you are considered the owner of your Meiser Sheni? So, sorry, it says Kiman Svir. Who does he hold like? Iker Rabbi Yehuda. If he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, Amai Kulo Lagos. So why would Beis Hillel say that you don't have to leave anything for the poor, and it's cool like us, you can crush all the wine. Ha'amar meiser mamon hadyotu. According to Rabbi Yehuda, meiser sheni is mamon hadyotu. You own your meiser sheni. And so, if you own your meiser sheni, and Beis Hillel compares meiser sheni and karem rivai, so that means you own your karem rivai. Well, if you own your karem rivai, so why would you not have to leave anything for the poor? It says in the pasuk that describes the requirement to leave these things to the poor, it says karmecha, your karem, your vineyard. So if it's, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if it's your vineyard, so then you should have to leave, you should still have the requirement to leave things for the poor. Elalav Rabbi Meir. So rather it must be also like Rabbi Meir. He holds, Beis Hillel must hold that Meiser Sheni is Mamon Gavo. You don't own it. And Karem Rivai is compared to Meiser Sheni. So Karem Rivai is also Mamon Gavo. It doesn't belong to you. And because it doesn't belong to you, that's why Beis Hillel says that there's no requirement to leave behind the parrot, the individual grapes, and the olos, the undeveloped clusters, because that applies only when it's yours. But in the fourth year, it doesn't belong to you because it's like Meiser Sheni and it's Mamon Gavoa. So we see that Beis Hillel holds like Rabbi Meir that Meiser Sheni is Mamon Gavoa. Now, that is what the Gemara meant, that there's a Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Meir. Now, it's not actually a Stam Mishnah. It's not a Mishnah that has no authorship, but it is a Mishnah that's the opinion of of Beis Hillel. And since we pasking like Beis Hillel over Beis Shammai, almost always, including here, so therefore that's the Stam Mishnah that's backing up Rabbi Meir. We have a Mishnah that proves the halacha is like Rabbi Meir because it's a Beis Hillel Mishnah. So Beis Hillel seems to hold that Meiser Sheni is Mamon Gavoa. Okay, so that's why we paskin like Rabbi Meir that with regards to Meiser Sheni that we consider it Mamon Gavoa. It's heavenly property and it's not the person's property. That's why he can never do Kiddushin using Meiser Sheni. And it would follow, I guess, he also couldn't do Kiddushin using Karem Rivai, using anything from the fourth year crops. Okay. Now, what about the other side? Rabbi Yehuda b'hektish mahi. We also said that when it comes to hektish, when it comes to using hektish for Kiddushin, we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda because we have a Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda. We have a Stam Mishnah that's going to show us that me'ila, there's only me'ila when it's done b'shogeg. Misappropriation of hektish is only if it's done unintentionally, not if it's done intentionally. That's what Rabbi Yehuda held, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda said if he was mekadesh a woman with hektish, if it was unwittingly, he didn't realize it was hektish, and she didn't realize, so then it would work, because that's me'ila, and that will deconsecrate it, but if he did it intentionally, it won't work, because it won't deconsecrate it. So where's that Mishnah? Ditna, because we're learning a Mishnah as follows. The Mishnah says, in Maseches Me'ila, the Mishnah says, Shilach biyad pikeach. So we've talked about these kinds of cases before. A man has hektish money, and he forgets that it's hektish money. He sends an agent, a messenger, with the money to go buy something, which would be a misappropriation of hektish, and it would be unintentional. V'nizkar, actually, but he realized it was hektish before he got to the store, and actually the agent also realized. So both the sender, whose money it was, and the agent, by the time they got to the store, they knew that this was hektish money, which means for them to now go ahead and use it, it is intentional, not unintentional. But the storekeeper doesn't know. And the storekeeper, so Nizkar actually they remembered before they got to the store. So before they actually used the hektish, they realized it was hektish. They then went ahead and used it anyways, but that's intentional. And now the storekeeper has hektish money. So, if the storekeeper then uses that money, goes and buys something with the money he received, so that is me'ila. Because what we see from here is that the sender and the messenger, who knew it was hektish, since they did it on purpose, so that's not me'ila, according to this Mishnah. It's only, but the storekeeper didn't know that it was hektish, so he has transgressed me'ila. So that's the Stam Mishnah. That's a Mishnah of unidentified authorship, a Stam Mishnah that is in accordance with Rabbi Yehuda that says that there's only me'ila when it's done b'shogeg, when it's done unintentionally, but not when it's done intentionally. It's not to say it's permitted to do intentionally, but it's a different type of prohibition. Okay, so the Gemara continues and it says, Ukr Yehuda b'maiser milo tanan. But is it not true that we also have a Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda with regards to his opinion about Meiser Sheni? In other words, we have a Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Meir with regards to Meiser Sheni, that Meiser Sheni is Mammon Gavoah. Beis Hillel holds Meiser Sheni is Mammon Gavoah. We have a Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda with regards to Hektish. But ask the Gemara, the truth is we also have a Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda with regards to the Meiser Sheni. Rabbi Yehuda holds that Meiser Sheni is Mammon Hadyot. It belongs to the individual, not to the heavens. And we actually have a Stam Mishnah that seems to hold that way too, that would back up his opinion. So the Gemara asks, do we not have a Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda with regards to Meiser v'Hatanan? We're learning a Mishnah. This Mishnah is in Mesachos Meiser Sheni. Hapodeh Meiser Sheni Shalom. When a person redeems his Meiser Sheni, Mosif Alav Chamishiso. He has to add a fifth. So that's halach. We already mentioned, right? When you redeem Meiser Sheni, you have to add a fifth. Extra, that's one from a pasuk. But says the Mishnah, Bein Mishalo, it doesn't matter if this was Meiser Sheni that came from his own crops, Bein Shenitan Lo B'matana, or whether it was Meiser Sheni that was given to him as a gift by someone else. So if somebody else gave him Meiser Sheni, and now it's his, and he redeems it, so he has to pay an extra fifth. Mani. Ask the Gemara, who is the author of this Mishnah? Whose opinion is this Mishnah in accordance with? Ilema Rabbi Meir if you tell me it's Rabbi Meir who holds that Meiser Sheni is Mammon Gavoah, that you don't own your Meiser Sheni, it belongs to the heavens. Mi matzi ya'ivle b'matana. Is it possible for someone to give it to him as a gift? What does it mean that he received Meiser Sheni as a gift? If Meiser Sheni is Mammon Gavoah, you can't give it as a gift. So how did this guy get it as a gift? V'ha'amar Meiser Mammon Gavoahu. Rabbi Meir holds Meiser's Mammon Gavoah. It's heavenly property. You can't give it as a gift. And the Mishnah talks about a case where Meiser Sheni was received as a gift. Elolav Rabbi Yehuda. So isn't this Mishnah Rabbi Yehuda? And we have a Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda that actually Meiser Sheni is Mammon Hediot. It's an individual's money. It's not sacred. So the Gemara says, no. Le'olam Rabbi Meir. Really, we could say this Mishnah is like Rabbi Meir as well. So how is it possible if Rabbi Meir holds that Meiser Sheni is sacred, is heavenly property? How is it possible that somebody received Meiser Sheni as a gift? Here, what are we dealing with? It's where it was given to him while it was still tevel. It was not yet separated, the Meiser Sheni. V'kasavar, and he holds, this Mishnah holds, Rabbi Meir would hold, matano shelo hormu, kimi shelo hormu damyan, that gifts that have not been donated or designated are not yet designated, not yet donated. In other words, we have a bunch of produce. A tenth of it, a tithe, right, is Meiser Sheni from it. But before you separate out Meiser Sheni, this opinion holds. We don't see the Meiser Sheni yet. And so, before it's separated out, you're allowed to give it as a gift, this produce. The person who receives it will have to separate out the Meiser Sheni. But it's possible if we would look at it like there's already Meiser Sheni included in this, then you couldn't give it as a gift because you can't give the Meiser Sheni part. But this opinion holds that before it's been designated, before it's been donated, it's not donated. We don't see it yet. So you can give the produce as is before you separate out the Meiser Sheni, and then the recipient receives it, and he has to separate out the Meiser Sheni. And that's what the Mishnah meant when it said that even if it was given to you as a gift, if you would then want to be poded, you would want to redeem that Meiser Sheni for money, to bring the money to Yerushalayim instead of the produce, you could, but you have to pay an extra fifth, even if it was, you got it as a gift. Okay, the Gemara has another question. Tashma, come and listen to another Mishnah, also in Mesechus Meiser Sheni. The Mishnah says, "Hapoda neta rivai shelo." If a person redeems his neta rivai, so now we're talking about fourth year crops. We're talking about fourth year crops which have to be consumed in Yerushalayim. The Mishnah says if you redeem it, Mosif alav chamishiso, you have to add a fifth. That you do pay an extra fifth. You do pay an extra fifth. Bein mishalah, bein shenitan lo b'matana. Whether it was his own, netarivai, or whether it was received as a gift. So again, this is so far in accordance with Beis Hillel, like we said before, who holds that just like Meiser Sheni, you pay an extra fifth to redeem it. Netarivai, you do too. Fourth year crops, you do too. But here, the Mishnah says that you have to do it whether it's yours, whether it's from your own field, or whether it was given to you as a gift. And again, we have the same question. Mani, who is the author of this Mishnah? Ilema Rabbi Meir, if you tell me that it's Rabbi Meir, mi matzi yaivle, is it possible to give neta rivai as a gift? V'hagamri, we learned kodesh kodesh mi meiser. We learned Gzeira Shabbat to compare it to meiser. That just like it says kodesh by meiser shenis, and you have to pay an extra fifth when you redeem that, so too by neta rivai, fourth year crops, it says kodesh, so you have to, the same halacha applies, and you have to pay an extra fifth. So, and if it's Rabbi Meir, that means it's mamon gavoa. So how can you give mamon gavoa, this fourth year crop, it doesn't belong to him, it's mamon gavoa, how can you give it as a gift? Now here you can't answer, it's before it was separated out, because there's no separating out by neta rivai. Whatever grows in the fourth year is fourth year crops. So so this Mishnah seems to go like Rabbi Yehuda, that it is not considered mamon gavoa, it's mamon hediot. That's how it's possible that he gave it as a gift. So I'll allow Rabbi Yehuda. So isn't this Mishnah in accordance with Rabbi Yehuda? So the Gemara says with Olam Rabbi Meir. No, really, we could still say it's Rabbi Meir. V'hachla b'maya skinan. And here, what are we dealing with? We're talking about where he gave it as a gift while it was still smadar, like when it was first budding. So the fruit was just beginning to bud, and the obligation, according to this Tana holds, the obligation of neta rivai, or the status of neta rivai, doesn't kick in when it first buds. Udulok Rabbi Yossi. Unlike Rabbi Yossi, Da'amar Smadar Asr Mibnei Shupri, that as soon as fruit begins to to form, even if it's just a little bud, it's still forbidding because it's called a pri. It's called a fruit. Well, this opinion holds that until it actually takes on a more full-fledged fruit status, it's not yet considered a fruit, and therefore the laws of Arla and the laws of Neta Rivai don't kick in yet. So that's when it's possible he gave it as a gift. And then it, grew and ripened and became a full fruit. So then, at that point, it becomes obligated in Neta Rivai. It has to be consumed in Yerushalayim, and that's what the Mishnah means. In such a case, if then the person who received the gift decided to redeem it, he have to pay an extra fifth. But that's how we can have a case, even according to Rabbi Meir, who holds that Neta Rivai is mamon gavoa, Meiser Sheni is mamon gavoa, Neta Rivai is mamon gavoa, and yet it could be given as a gift, because in the case of Neta Rivai, we're talking about where it was given before the halachos of Neta Rivai kicked in, because the fruit was too small. Tashma, but come and listen to another Mishnah. The Mishnah says, again in Meiser Sheni, Mashach Hemenu Meiser Bisela. So, it's talking about where a person is buying Meiser Sheni from someone else. But he's not paying yet. He's not paying cash yet. He's doing the Meshicha. Now, we learned about kinyanim, transactions, earlier in the Masechta, and one of the ways to make a kinyan is to pull it towards you, to take it, Meshicha. There's a whole question about what affects the transaction. Would giving money even create the transaction, put it into effect? Or maybe only Meshicha is. But certainly Meshicha works, to take something that affects the transaction, and now he would owe money. So So the case was, somebody was buying Meiser Sheni from someone else. Mashach Emenu Meiser. He pulled the Meiser Sheni towards him and made the kinyan. Bisela. And the agreement was that he would pay 1 sela. That was the price for the Meiser Sheni. V'lo hispik liftoso ad she'amad bishtayim. But he didn't have a chance to actually give the money to redeem it until the market went up, and now this fruit was worth 2 selas. So how much does he have to pay? 1 sela or 2? He did the kinyan when it was worth 1 sela, but he didn't give the money until it was now worth 2 selas. So the Mishnah says, no same sela, he pays just a sela, umistaker b'sela. And he'll actually gain 1 sela. Yeah, so he'll get a discount basically. He's able to get it for 1 sela. And Meiser Sheni Shelo, now he owns the Meiser Sheni. So the Gemara asks, Mani, who is the author of this Mishnah? Who is this in accordance with? Ilema Rabbi Meir, if this Mishnah is like the opinion of Rabbi Meir, Amai Mistakir B'Sela. Why can he get away with only paying 1 sela? V'nasan esakesef v'kamlo amar Rachmana. When it comes to hektish, when it comes to mamon gavo, when it comes to things belonging to the temple, so the pasuk says that the way that you redeem it is v'nasan esakesef v'kamlo. You give the money and then it becomes yours. Then you actually have to give the money to affect the transaction. The money is what creates the transaction when it comes to hektish. So the Gemara is asking, if this is Mamon Gavoa, if Meiser Sheni is Mamon Gavoa, is heavenly, is belongs to the temple, is heavenly property. So when this guy tried to purchase the Mamon Gavoa, this Meiser Sheni, and he pulled it towards him, that's great, but that's not how you make a kinyan on Mamon Gavoa. You have to actually give the money. And he didn't give any money, and then the price went up. So when it comes time, if he wants to acquire it, he have to pay the price on the day that he wants to acquire it. Because when he pulled it towards him, it didn't acquire it. If it's Mamon Gavoa. Mamon Gavoa, you only acquire when you give the money. So how come he's allowed to pay just 1 sela if now, when it comes time to pay the money, it's worth 2? That's if it was Rabbi Meir. Then this Mishnah doesn't make sense. Elav Rabbi Yehuda. So it must be that it's Rabbi Yehuda. And because according to Rabbi Yehuda, this is Mamon Hedyot. The Meiser Sheni is belongs to the owner of the fruit. And Mamon Hedyot, regular property, Mishicha is Konet. So what happened was, somebody bought it, he didn't pay the money yet, but he was Konet. The transaction took effect. He now owes a seller for it. The fact that it goes up in price doesn't matter because the transaction already happened when he pulled it towards him. That's if you hold that it's Mamon Hedyot. So this Mishnah seems to fit the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. So back to our question, we have a Stam Mishnah, we have a Mishnah of unidentified authorship with regards to Meiser Sheni, going like Rabbi Yehuda. So we said the halacha is like Rabbi Meir by Meiser Sheni because we have a Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Meir. But now we also have a Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda. So what are we supposed to do? So the Gemara answers, Le'olam Rabbi Yehuda. You're right, this Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda. So why would we go like Rabbi Meir? Stam Mishnah versus Stam Mishnah. V'hacha chad stama, v'hacha trei stami. Because actually there's 1 Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda, but there are 2 Stam Mishnahs like Rabbi Meir. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the shir, that Mishnah that we quoted actually appears 3 times in Shas. So the Stam Mishnah that's like Rabbi Meir actually appears 3 times. Now, 2 of them are in Seder Zraim, so we don't count that as 2. We count that as 1. But 1 time it appears in Meiser Sheni, and 1 time in Peah. That's both in Seder Zraim. That counts as 1. And then it appears again in Maseches Eidios. So since it appears twice, so we have 2 Stam Mishnahs like Rabbi Meir, and only one like Rabbi Yehuda, and that's why we will rule like Rabbi Meir. Ask the Gemara, V'istama davka, if a Stam Mishnah was intentionally written with unidentified authorship, to establish the halacha like that Mishnah, Mali Chadstama, Mali Treistami. Why does it matter if there's one or two? What kind of a logic is this? Yeah, but this one has more Stam Mishnahs. If the Stam Mishnah is supposed to express the halachas like that Mishnah, then we have a problem here. We have a contradiction, because we have a Stam Mishnah like this, Stam Mishnah like this. What advantage is it that you have more Stam Mishnahs? So the Gemara ends up saying, you're right. Or it kind of leaves that off, but it comes with a new reason why we paskin like Rabbi Meir. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, halacha Rabbi Meir, the halacha is like Rabbi Meir, hoel utnan bebechirasa kabasei. Because there's a Mishnah in the choicest Masechta like him. What's the choicest Masechta? It means Maseches Edios. Edios is testimonies of many different halachic discussions and conclusions, and therefore if there's a Stam Mishnah Maseches Edios, that is what we will pasking in accordance like. And that's why we pasking in accordance like with Rabbi Meir, because there's a Stam Mishnah in Maseches Edios. It's really a Mishnah like Beis Hillel in Maseches Edios that holds that Meiser Sheni is Mamon Gavoa, and that's how we're pasking that Meiser Sheni is Mamon Gavoa. Meiser Sheni is not considered the personal property, but rather it's property of, it's heavenly and sacred property. Okay, we'll pick up from Daf Nun Hey, Meretz Hashem, next time.